right, my friends, it is now time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. The Soulful Psalms is where we take one of the Psalms from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament, the Sefer Telachim, or the Book of Sung Praises, part of the Jewish hymnal, that we also use as Catholics in our liturgical worship in the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass, where we hear the Psalms at each and every liturgical service. And of course, it makes a huge part, is a huge part of the Liturgy of the Hours of the Divine Office, the other public prayer of the Church. And what's awesome about this Soulful Psalms segment is that it's its own podcast. That's right. You can go to Podcast Central at EWTN.com, or you can listen on the EWTN app, which I do download and listen every day. Or you can go to your favorite podcast platform, such as iTunes or SoundCloud or Spotify, to listen to the Soulful Psalms every single day. And today we're going to finish our look at Psalm 62, right? So Psalm 62 is written by David. You know, it's in book 3 of the Psalms, and the prescript is the entire first verse of the Psalm. The prescript or superscript of the Psalm says, Lemenzeach, Yedutan, Mizmor HaDavid. For the choir master intoned like Jeduthun, a psalm of David. And so these last few verses here, I love the way this psalm starts out. In God alone is my soul at rest. My salvation comes from him. He alone is my rock, my salvation, my fortress. Never shall I falter. So David comes out swinging, giving us a sense of faith and confidence in the power of God working in his life. So we pick up here, though, at verse 11. Do not put your trust in oppression, nor vain hopes on plunder. Even if riches increase, set not your hearts on them. So David is teaching us here to turn away from the temptations of the world, because that is such an easy temptation for us to turn away from the Lord because of pleasures, because when you reach a certain level of success in your job or in your other endeavors in your life, you know, things are on cruise control, things are going great. We have this tendency to put our trust in those things and to not step back and realize, wait a minute, everything that's happening to me, everything I'm receiving here is a gift from God that I should be grateful for and thankful for. And so, what happens sometimes is, because we're still dealing with concupiscence, we're still dealing with the effects of original sin. Sometimes we put our trust in ourselves, in our own abilities, in the abilities of others, in the material things, in my financial portfolio, in my car, in my own gifts and talents. You know, not recognizing those as gifts from God that we should use to honor him, that we should use to glorify him. No, we say those are my gifts, my talents. I'm the one who's making this happen. And so the little bit of the arrogance that creeps in. So David here is warning us, hey, be aware that this could be an obstacle to having that deep, intimate relationship with the Lord. And then he continues, for God has said only one thing, only two have I heard, that to you, God, alone belongs power, and to you, Lord, merciful love. Right? So there are 4 different words for merciful love. Hesed, Ahava, Raham, and Yedid. Right? So Hesed is covenantal love, making a complete and total gift of yourself to someone. This kind of a sacrificial love. Ahava is more like compassionate love. Yedid is the love that you would have for a beloved, right? So the word that's used here is raham, which is the merciful love of God, like you would show toward someone who's poor, right? Someone who is lowly, right? That kind of merciful, that's the word that's used here. So it's beautiful. So David recognizes that his power as king, his gifts, his authority is a gift that was given to him by God, and that he relies on God's merciful love for his strength. And he finally says, and that you repay each man according to his deeds. Right? And this is something echoed by our Lord. He says, you're no longer, you have to pay for the sins of your fathers. Each of us will be held accountable for our own sins, for our own actions, for our own lifestyle, freely chosen lifestyle choice decisions, right? And that those decisions and those choices have consequences, right? So I think that's a beautiful lesson from David. And so what we hope is that the decisions and choices that we make will have the eternal consequences of heaven, and that we don't freely choose the other consequence of cutting ourselves from God, cutting ourselves off from God's life forever in hell for all eternity.
For more on the Psalms with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, check out Beacon of Truth weekdays at 4 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio and streaming everywhere you listen to podcasts.